Good afternoon to all of you. It's a pleasure that we are here to discuss many trade issues between between the Indian industries and other industries from Europe, especially from the Europe, like European countries. Here, we would like to actually emphasize on behalf of Government of India that the ambitious strategy, or we call it as a mission, is focusing on how to scale up the projects, maybe at a much earlier stage than the kind of trajectory which we have witnessed in most of the other sectors, or including the oil and gas and renewable, etc. So, thank you so much for your time here. We welcome all the industry partners here from Europe, from India, and of course the policymakers. So today's discussion, I think we can start with the kind of opportunities available in terms of the technology transfer, the technology partnership, starting from the production of hydrogen, green hydrogen, and the other derivatives. We can then move ahead in terms of what kind of policy regimes which can facilitate trade between the two continents. And then we can go to the more on in terms of the practicality, how to make the trade in business terms, and also in terms of the logistics, the infrastructure, the possibility of the you can say the different kinds of derivatives which can be handled in terms of transportation, loading and loading, how we can use the different derivatives in the application form, what kind of derivatives are required in steel industry, the other manufacturing industries, refineries, petrochemicals, what other derivatives like methanol, ESF can be used in the transportation sector or civil aviation or maritime, and what are the other policy pushes which, or maybe incentives, what kind of incentives which we can accelerate this trade between the two continents. So I believe today's discussion, we can talk about what are the existing mechanisms which we have thought so far, if anything which is missing, anything which the Government of India or anything which the India-Europe EU partnership has not yet considered, or maybe we have considered but not yet implemented or not closed out or concluded. We can also throw light on that. And of course, I will be more happy the areas of opportunities where we can have between B2B or the different technology partners, including some kind of, if we find out the infrastructure making joint infrastructure MOUs, or even kind of investments in India to transport the green hydrogen derivatives to European industry, European countries, and maybe we can go more details how make it happen. The overall objective is that, as I mentioned in the previous session, that this is a transition which we don't have 2 or 3 decades. We don't have 25, 30 years, which we have taken in the rest of the energy basket, where the complete business case or complete market transition, including the sufficiency in terms of infrastructure, the trade, has actually witnessed something between 25 to 30 years in case of natural gas, and maybe even more in case of oil and other related products. We don't have that much time. The 2050 is approaching really fast. We need to leverage the success of the molecules, but at the same time, we need to also keep track about the new technologies. The last point, that how in all these processes, how can we actually reduce the cost of logistics, cost of productions, cost of other transportation, etc. So the cost could be perhaps the most important thing when we discuss the partnership. How do we the policies and the framework can make it affordable, so that the market transformation which we are aiming, at least in next 8 to 10 years, can be achieved in an accelerated manner. So I'll stop here, and maybe Nishaanth, would you like to take it? Yeah, and see the views from different stakeholders.
Yes,
thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, sir. I think you've set the context very well for this roundtable. Clearly, between India and EU, we're looking at several partnerships, and I'm glad that some of the EU companies here are already in partnership with Indian companies. Unlike the last roundtable where we had an open discussion, this time I'd like to go person by person, maybe starting with Rafael, and we'll keep your focus on trade, skills, technology, infrastructure, and finally what Mr. Bakre said, how do we bring the cost down? Right? And if partnerships within India can actually help you do that as well. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us to this roundtable. Great event. I mean, we have been around in India for quite a while. John Cockrell has a lot of colleagues in India, close to 1,000 people. For us, India, of course, is a large market, but is also a source of talent. We are establishing capabilities in India, engineering, support capabilities for what we do elsewhere in the world. So it's a place we know well, India, where we like to do business for quite some time. With regard to hydrogen, first of all, we would like to congratulate the leadership of the state of India on the topic of green hydrogen. Very impressive, high ambition, steady course, and I think that many parts of the world today are looking at India in terms of leadership for green hydrogen. So congratulations for this. John Cockrell, about India, 3 years ago, we have decided to manufacture in India electrolyzers for the Indian market. It was clear to us that given the size of the market, we had to manufacture locally. And this is why we have established a joint venture with Greenco, today AM Green, to together manufacture electrolyzer in India. The factory is under construction. We have been awarded subsidies through one of the PLI scheme, and we are moving forward with the construction of this factory. Beyond this, we are also delivering what is today one of the largest order of electrolyzer in the world to AM Green for their very big project. So for us, clearly, India is a strategic country. We are looking to work also with other partners. We are entertaining discussion with a number of clients in India, smaller project, bigger projects. We are following closely what public PSU companies are doing in India. We have been impressed by the award of the IOCL project a few days ago, very impressive price level. And this is a very good sign for the industry, challenging for the players, but very good sign for the industry, because at this level, hydrogen will indeed be very competitive. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Thilo, and also congratulations, because your partnership has secured the highest order book last year for electrolyzers, right? So well done, and I think that sets precedents for several other companies to come to India as well. If I can move over to Damien.
Yeah, so thank you. So I'm Damien Reyes. I'm the CEO of Reddy, which is a joint venture formed between Technip Energies and John Cockrell. So we are delivering a large project, as you mentioned. We are scaling up technology, and we are securing also the project for our clients. So we are also glad to build, design, and build the AM Green project in India. So together with John Cockrell Hydrogen. And just to open a little bit the discussion around the topics of scaling up the hydrogen project. I think the thing that we need to resolve as an industry today is that we need to scale up, we need to deliver our project, and at the same time, we need to get the technology evolving. So scaling up and giving robustness is not always going along with new technologies. And I think if we want to accelerate the decrease of the hydrogen cost, we need to combine being able to have some deep industrial partnership like we have with John Cockrell and also with AM Green, to make sure that we are developing new technologies at scales, but at the same time we give the certainty of delivering and performances. Because if you look at, and there was a parallel with the LNG business, I think the LNG business is there since 60 years. if you look at the cost of the LNG plant, because in Technip Energies we build 25% of all the LNG plant in the world, so we have been able to reduce the capex because of scale. But it took 60 years to do it. So if we want to do it in 10 years' time, there is no other solution that sharing IP and deep collaboration between the company.
Thank you very much, Damien. Mr. Vaidya, over to you, please.
So, for people who don't know me, my name is Vaidya from Sembcorp Nusara, India. I'm the CEO of that. And as you know that, Nusara is doing NEOM 2.2 gigawatt. Out of 110 modules, we have already, on site, it is 80 modules are there. And then with Stegra, it is in pre-commissioning, and then Shell we are doing in Rotterdam. So what I agree with both the speakers before me is that two things are pretty clear is that one is the scale is important. If we want to, bring the cost down, scale is key in there. And second is the competency to erect, commission, and then, operate these plants. Nusara India, we started in October 2023. And we have scaled up close to 100 people. It came from 50 years from Uday legacy in caustic. And that experience along with project execution and PSM will help in reducing the cost that we are talking today. Yeah, thank you.
So if you could also highlight what your team is doing to support global projects and also, emphasize on the fact that, India has a strong skill base, right? And that's how we bring the cost down as well.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it's short of time, but I can go on that is that what I said is this 50 years of expertise of, from Uday is bringing Nusara. We are doing the product development to bring the cost down of our product. And this is led by the team completely in India. In addition that we are also doing the PSM, which is procurement of, the local vendors, which also helps, not only to qualify the vendors to the international standards, number one. And number two is to say that the overall cost, if you see that, how much, that can bring down. As a group, Nusara is still actively looking at bring the cost down, on different angles. But the key is that, the safety is important. We don't just want to cut cost there at the cost of safety. And I think both of you will agree on that. I think safety, especially in hydrogen, is key there. So without compromising on safety and then, on the reliability, how do you bring the cost down is the key factor. Also, Nusara is working on SOEC with Fraunhofer ITKF. I think these two, will the key drivers in the going forward market now, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Vaidya. Mr. Sanjay, over to you.
I think we all are here today. Basically, how do we build up a resilient, mutually beneficial Indo-European, hydrogen trade and help in accelerating the energy transition? I think India has taken large steps in the last 2 years, and which have started giving us the benefits of taking those early steps. Today, a smaller company like us, is right now implementing around 5 hydrogen-related projects. So we are doing an hydrogen production project for a refinery. We are building an 4G ethanol project for one of our national thermal power plants. We are doing a methanol project, again, a e-methanol project using carbon capture, using electrolysis through water, electrolysis, and then, synthesizing it together to create a methanol. So I think from an hydrogen ecosystem standpoint, I think we are all geared up because of a large technical pool available to us. We have the highest driver in the cost of hydrogen production remains the OPEX, which is the power. And India stands right now at a very competitive, power generation cost and a extremely resilient one single grid, which provides us more power in terms of the intermittency of the renewable power, which affects the hydrogen production. So I think we are shaping up right. We just need to ensure that we create a supply chain resilience within the Indo-Europe partnership in order to help in obviously developing a lower cost. We already are at $4, and I think in India right now, and I think with time to come, we should be in in a lower range next year. The electrolyzer prices have fallen down by 50% in last 2 years, and without the scale happening. Just imagine with the scale happening, where is this cost going to come? And with the power efficiency to be derived within different technologies which are right now, I think we should be in a position when the dream of being leading the hydrogen economy in the world would be a reality for India. And I think Europe benefits from it, from an consideration of wanting to have greener fuels, I think, at the lowest possible cost. And India is positioned right, and we hope we take advantage for mutual benefit of our relationship with each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanjeev. Otherwise, you were on point and you kept it very clear. But also, if you could highlight a little bit about the strengths with Jackson, right? You're a strong EPC player. You've done a lot. Where do you think you can play a role in the green hydrogen ecosystem?
I think the green hydrogen, hydrogen has been existing for 100 years. All we are doing is moving it to the electrolytic process, the electrolyzer process, and building up a renewable power to power the whole thing. Within our own organization, we started this journey 2 years back. Today, we are a dedicated team of around 100 engineers who are only working on detailed engineering on various projects we are doing right now. And the transition has taught us a lot of lessons, in terms of how do we integrate all the multidiscipline approach you need in these kind of projects. Because, these projects, though they may look simple, but does need large technical acumen and resources in order to integrate together for cost-effective, economical production, plant. So I think from that standpoint, we have been able to build a very robust core organization, and thankfully, because of a lot of good engineering skills available within the country, and so it was not a very difficult job to transition into and building in. So we think we are ready for any large scale of projects in India, and like us, there are tens of companies in India who have done commendable job in that area, and I think all of them are looking forward to major offtake agreements where we can have a bankable projects and we can get going on that. And I think in India today, I think end to end we can execute any scalable project within 24 to 36 months should be the timeline by which our people can deliver a project. So that's where we are right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Tom, over to you. If you could also introduce, the port of Antwerp, but also stress on something Mr. Bakre highlighted, which is infrastructure, right? And where does India stand?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Tom Houtkiet. I'm responsible for business and transition for the port of Antwerp. I'm also the chairman of the Belgian Hydrogen Council and a member of the board of Hydrogen Europe. I fully agree with what I heard. India is positioned extremely well in the recent 2 years, which in its regard to the progress which is made, but also on the positioning on the price levels, which are becoming more and more clear. And we have been able to witness that ourselves because we were bringing with a big delegation with Her Royal Highness, the Princess of Belgium, I think with 400 business people earlier, I think it was in April, to really to understand and to have a deep dive on energy transition in India. That was also the occasion where we signed together an MOU exactly to understand between the Belgian Hydrogen Council and GH2 to understand how can we cooperate and how can we team up to have the supply chains working on the lowest cost, because that is all what matters, of course. I think as India is positioning very well, I do think that in Europe, Rotterdam and Antwerp are the two ports to import into the big European market. We have in those two ports, we have reached to 60% of the buying power of Europe. So that's why our location is tremendously good. And both of us, we are focusing very much on infrastructure. We have a role to play there. In Antwerp, we are preparing now 4 landing terminals. You all know the names, the Vopaks of this world and Advario and all the others. We are preparing 3 cracking installations. And we are also with our own company, we are building ammonia pipeline, and Flux is preparing its network on hydrogen, not only in the Belgian ecosystem, but also to reach, of course, the German market. So I think from an infrastructure point of view, we are on track on our roadmap. We look more and more to India to become our partner and our natural partner. as an export hub and we as an import hub. And in that sense, we reach out also hand because you refer to it. We also do investments, even on equity, but also on know-how and on teams and capabilities on the export platforms, because we are convinced, and it's not the first time we do that in Oman, we do that in Namibia, we are looking at Canada, because we are so convinced that if you do the same thing on the export side and the import side, and you can do it with the same partners, it can only drive to the lowest cost. And that's why I think it makes sense to have a look on, can we team up in infrastructure in Antwerp? Can we team up in infrastructure also on the Indian side? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tom. Also, Port of Antwerp and the Port of Rotterdam are the gateways, for India's green hydrogen and green ammonia imports. But you've also been trying to build partnerships with the Indian ports, and you're also a key stakeholder in these green corridors the governments are talking about. So if you could, share a few insights on that, please.
Yeah, so what we do on that is exactly, we do that for decades already. So it all started with exporting our know-how, what we have on a petrochemical ecosystem and cluster in Antwerp. How can we create also that? How can we transfer that know-how to other places in the world? So we are active in the second biggest port. We are a shareholder of the second biggest port of Brazil. We are an important shareholder in Oman. But we do have managerial teams all over the world in several ports. So it's really, and we don't do that for as a business perspective. We are a public company. So we are not a private company. We are a public company, and we talk really from public to public, and we try to understand how can we team up between governments, and how can we share, deal, accelerate programs to work in a safe way, because ammonia is ammonia, to work in a safe way, to put pipelines, to use the experience we have, to use the tanking experience we have, and to do that with the partners we know from both sides already, and to accelerate the whole chain.
And thank you for for the role that you play within the Belgian Hydrogen Council and Hydrogen Europe. I think our collaboration is very important for both our industries in Europe and in India. So thank you for that. Beate, over to you, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Beate Grother from Bosch Company, and I'm in the Hydrogen Europe board as well. And so as a representative for a technology provider, and this is our role of Bosch Company, we have a very long history, successful history in India. We are active there for more than 100 years with close to 40,000 associates. And we are going to copy our long years history and success, what we had in automotive components for the powertrain, for supporting the hydrogen economy to make cheap and hydrogen affordable. And that's why we are active in the development and industrialization of an electrolyzer. So in that regard, we are some competitors, but I think competition is good for the market and for bringing the cost down. And at least that's our experience from automotive business. And on the other side, we are active on the off-takers. You may know that we have developed a mobile fuel cell for truck applications, and specifically in India, locally we develop hydrogen combustion components. So we see ourselves, Bosch, in the role of supplying components as we did for decades for gasoline and diesel engines. We are going to deliver it for hydrogen combustion engines, for fuel cell trucks, what we later on, maybe in later future, see in India as well. First, of course, hydrogen combustion engine, and we transfer this to electrolyzer business. And from the experience, what we have with building up locally manufacturing in India with the teams, educate people, we are very convinced that we can localize even electrolyzer technology. And of course, this requires somehow a development of the local supply chain. And as Bosch, we are eager to support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Beate. Siddharth, over to you, Siddharth.
Thank you, Nishaanth. This has been a very enlightening and enriching day so far. The earlier roundtable as well. I represent a company called H2E Power, which I founded 16 years back. So we've been talking green hydrogen since 2009. So what we do is, of course, we are an electrolyzer manufacturer, We've indigenized the entire electrolyzer value chain, and we work on multiple technologies. We are a technology agnostic company, so we are I would believe that the only company in India who has put an alkaline, a AEM, a solid oxide electrolyzer on the ground. And all of that built in India with a lot of Indian components and Indian people. We're talking about Indo-EU trade, and we spoke a lot about selling hydrogen, ammonia, but there are certain components which are not, which do not need RFNBOs. Components like the balance of plant. We're working on a couple of projects in Europe to build the balance of plant. Bosch, we worked with you guys in 2013 when you built the solid oxide fuel cell. So I worked with your team in Stuttgart, near Stuttgart, the R&D center. What we can do and what we bring to the table here is very inexpensive balance of plant components and export of electrolyzer as well. So we're negotiating with a few European companies to sell the electrolyzer itself. A bigger part of things, and where I think we really need a proper Indo-EU coordination, is in the skilling side. So my company works on skilling as a subject. We have different programs on skilling right from 1 week up to 11 months. So we're targeting to create a pool of 500,000 trained people by the end of this decade. And that can be immediate export into the EU. And if there can be proper guidelines and proper certifications that can be done so that we can send our people here. Because today, if I have to come to Germany, for example, and work, there are a lot of certifications, there are a lot of other issues that you have to look for. But if that can be ironed out between the Indian and EU teams, then that can be a major export that can happen. And we'll then be able to do cross-pollination. We bring technology from you and we then convert it into mass product and also help build these plants, whether it is building an ammonia plant, whether it is building infrastructures on the port. So I think that's a major part of the things that I would recommend or I would put on the table here. We have been associated with Fraunhofer Institute. We've been associated with a university in Italy, and we've developed a lot of processes and components which we've taken back to India and indigenized them. So happy to say that all of us are again talking about the carbon footprint. So I've gone back on the electrolyzer carbon footprint as well, and very soon we will have an electrolyzer with a minimal carbon footprint. So even the components, I have about 300 components that go into building an electrolyzer. Most of them will be built within a 50-kilometer periphery, so that we are able to do a just-in-time approach. And what we are again doing something innovative is trying to build a complete electrolyzer and deliver it. We call it, in India, we call it factory acceptance test and site acceptance test. So a site acceptance test in 120 days after placing an order. So these are things that we are bringing to table. We're working with a few European companies to put in a lot of the AI infrastructure into my electrolyzer, where from my stack level to the BOP, how I can consume limited energy, how I can make it more and more effective, how I can that way reduce the cost of hydrogen. So these are areas, and I think, my colleagues who are in the industry, John Cockrell, ThyssenKrupp Nucera, and even Jackson Green, we are all working on, I think, similar ideas. So not really competitors, you're all complementers trying to build this industry and make sure that, people who are trying to build great ammonia plants, we're able to give them good electrolyzer, we're able to give them good infrastructure, whereby they'll be able to do it in a very inexpensive way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Siddharth. If I could move on to Mr. Rafael. Rafael, you've been a great friend of India too, and you've also had a legacy in the hydrogen space. And I think you're one of the right people to speak about India-EU partnerships in the sector.
Well, first, it's thank you so much for having me today. I see some old faces. For those who don't know me, I've been the chairman of Hydrogen Europe 2015 to 2017. Back then, I was the CTO of ENGIE. I also have a past as an advisor of an EU energy minister. And 7 years ago, I left all that world to be able to be an independent advisor and investor. invest my own money in PE. And I see here already around the table the effect of some help I've been able to provide to industrial players between India and Europe to get things rolling. So that's a pleasure to be able to contribute. I am absolutely amazed by the drive that I see in India, Mr. Bakre, around hydrogen. I was there recently. It's not my first time. I think it's refreshing at a time where there are quite a number of question marks. I mean, we all know what has been decided in the US a couple of weeks ago. And we need what is going on in India, and we need also to keep the momentum in Europe. So that's really, really good news, and I would engage, on top of what Tom has said, we need to do more to get Indian companies to come to Europe and European companies to go to India and see what is going on, because there's much more to do than what has already been done by some of the people that have already talked. It is also refreshing to see that CEO, like the CEO of Bosch, has said last week that they remain committed to hydrogen, but we also need to acknowledge that some other, very important players have Statkraft in mind to say, well, I need to stop and wait. So in this troubled time, what you do is of essence, and what we do is of essence. I would give 4 ideas. The first one, I think, connecting. I've already developed on it. Make people know each other, go to see each other, and define things that can be done. By this, I mean, this arena, other arenas, what you can do in India as well. I mean, it needs to be completely open, and we need to do more. Second, on the regulatory and flow, I'm here talking to, representative from the authorities. Please make it as fast and simple as possible, and make it happen, because as we heard, it's volumes of trades that will get prices go down. And without this being in place, I mean, despite all the good positivism of the actors around the table, it will not happen. And we need to see it happen on simple terms and make it fast. And in that regard, what you have said last November when you were guest of honor at the EU Hydrogen Week, and your minister, that was of essence, let's try to make it simple. Everybody knows what I'm referring to. Investments, I think, is a dimension that has been mentioned but not sufficiently put forward. Cross-investment, because, I mean, the question here is what? Are you, India, going to produce hydrogen and sell it to Europe? And is Europe going to produce equipment and sell it to India? Or do tech transfer that you ask for, then you develop additional value in India? I think we collectively need to think about creating value together and sharing together, and it can be in all directions, building a Pixel here or in India, producing here. I mean, there can be many different flows. My fourth point, and thank you, Mr. Bakre, for having invited me to join your effort in that direction. So 2 weeks ago, under your leadership, there was an event on SMEs in India, and what to do for hydrogen with SMEs. I used to be, as you may know, before chairman of Hydrogen Europe, meant chairman of FCIGU, which is the Clean Hydrogen Partnership. We have had the experience in Europe of, doing programs where we mix, and Laurent was chairman of Hydrogen Europe Research at that time, where we mix research, industry, and SMEs. There can be avenue of further collaboration in that area. We have spent quite a bit of time looking at hydrogen here over the past 10, 15 years in Europe. We have made mistakes. Please learn from what we did well, and do not learn absolutely of the mistakes we have done. And if we can help you, tell you about our mistakes, and that will be beneficial to all. So that would be my last point, the SME dimension.
Rafael, thank you very much. Very eloquently put. Dr. Susana, you've been playing a very integral role in, catalyzing these markets. So over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Susana Moreira. I'm Executive Director of Day-1 Global Foundation. So about exactly a year ago, I was approached by someone in this room to say, well, you should go to India and you should look at what's happening in India. And that resulted in an invitation in August by the ministry, by the Minister for MNRE to go to India and see what was happening on the ground. And it was really impressive and I just would second comments that were made by the previous speakers of all the activities that are happening on the ground, and obviously the potential, and very importantly also the continued commitment from the government to stick with the green hydrogen mission. I think it's been really, it's a very important signal for the sector, but also in the current context that we are experiencing and was also mentioned before, I think there is a great opportunity for India to take over a very important role here, because there's a space that's been opening. Before there was a lot of interest of projects that would maybe come to Europe from the other side of the Atlantic. Now with the situation that you're all aware of, that we don't know if that will really be able to materialize. So that creates a lot of opportunities also for India in the situation that we are facing. So I think India has the potential to really become a leader in this space, leveraging their capacities. And that's why at H2 Global, we are very excited to be supporting the Indian government as they're looking to ways to collaborate with other governments and maybe doing tenders like we have already advanced in discussions with Canada and Germany and Australia and Germany, where a government of a country that has the potential to produce joins efforts from an importing country to really help develop the trade between the two governments and also, of course, support the development of the sector domestically. But I think it's really important about these types of efforts because the funds are not massive. I mean, it's a lot of money, but like divided by 10 years, it's not so much. It's really the opportunity that you have to establish these links and figure out the issues that may emerge. That when we talk about that, that can be regulations that sometimes you haven't really yet looked into, some aspects in some ports that, you know, some rules that have to be figured out, but also infrastructure issues that may be there that you need to accommodate for. So all of these issues are learnings that are important to help facilitate the trade. These types of initiatives should be seen as anchors to help develop the whole sector as a whole, with all other projects and off-takers that can then take the lead. So we are very happy, as I said, to work with the Indian government on this aspect. We're also looking at the possibility of bringing this concept to shipping in particular. It's one of the hard-to-abate sectors that has the most potential. We feel, particularly after what IMO recently announced, that this might be a sector where there might be some opportunity both for governments to allocate concessional capital to bring some of these projects to fruition, but then eventually possibly with funds from the IMO that can also be leveraged to help develop the sector. So these are the two main lines of discussions we are having, and we have also fortunate to sign in November last year an MOU with SECI, which of course is critical because we also get the inputs from SECI on what the learnings have been from the auctions domestically. So I think it's important that we have already a bridge between the two institutions and the two countries that's concrete. And we're looking to do possibly other MOUs with other key institutions in India. So I think those are the main elements. I can talk for much longer, but I think we can, if there's any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me during, after the event. But so finally, just again, a great word of thanks to the organizers for inviting us, and of course for the ministry for the continued collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susana. Laurent, please, over to you.
Okay, Laurent Anthony, Executive Director of the IPHE, which is a partnership from government to government to develop hydrogen economy. And we are now today 27 members. India is one of the founding members, the 26 countries plus the European Commission. And regarding trade, we all agree that if we want to develop hydrogen markets, we need to develop international trade, hydrogen becoming a commodity. So we discussed previously, one way is of course to agree on mutual recognition of certification schemes, but that's not the only way. We also see that for trade, we may also use existing trade rules, in particular developed by WTO, to see how by using these trade rules, we may facilitate international trade. And this is something we are now starting to work on the IPHE at the government level, to work with WTO, to see what is existing and how could we facilitate and speed up international trade. And so we've done a mapping exercise in different IPHE countries regarding existing regulation, procurements, incentives, tax and tariffs on hydrogen derivatives based on import, export, usage, or service. And we also included critical equipment. Because this will also be a key part of the hydrogen market globally, is also to have this trade of critical equipments. Many countries having sun, wind, have renewables, but they do not all master today critical equipments like electrolyzers. So which means there will be also international trade, as you were mentioning, regarding these critical equipments. And referring to the ISO standard we discussed previously with carbon footprint, you may have noticed that in the ISO standard, we are also asking to include, for information, CapEx emissions. Not only greenhouse gas, as we say, scope 1 and scope 2, but also to include, for information, that stage CapEx emissions. So the lower CapEx emissions are, the better it will be for everyone. And so coming back to the trade, what we've seen about this survey, that of course, on hydrogen, there are some existing regulations, procurements, and so on. But for the derivatives, and for critical equipments, derivatives, ammonia, methanol, almost everything has to be created. So everyone speaks about derivatives trade, but there is almost no rules at all over the world. So it's really an empty area we need to fill. And as mentioned, working with WTO, the idea is also how can we value specific hydrogen on trade. And that's why we also now are starting to work with WCO, the custom organization, and to see how could we value the harmonization system, existing harmonization system, in order to be able to differentiate different type of ammonia, different type of hydrogen, in order to facilitate complementary to certification schemes to say, even though you may distinguish hydrogen as a fuel or as a feedstock or as energy or based on different ways of how it has been produced. But this has to be also to be agreed. And this is the so-called harmonization system where we need at government level agreement on these 7 to 10 digits on the hydrogen system to agree on these values so that it may also facilitate international trade. And the idea is working on that, but on the other hand, also supporting this International Hydrogen Trade Forum, this IHTF, to have some first pilots. This is also very important to implement it, not only to speak, to try to do, but to use existing regulations or new standards to implement it concretely, and by using some first trade routes between IHTF members, which is a partnership between industry and countries. So this is something I think, in addition to what all you said, we really have to work, and that's why, for instance, at IPHE, we are really pushing IPHE countries, or even any countries, to ask to the creation of a specific working group on hydrogen at the WTO level, in order to have this kind of trade discussion between countries to try to find some agreement, some consensus. And if you know today that tax and tariffs is quite a hot topic for other sector, but we need to have this kind of discussion. So that's where we are in order to try to support this international trade is really happening.
No, thank you very much for highlighting your efforts with the WTO, and I think that is very, very pertinent for all the efforts we're undertaking collectively. Mr. Sharma, please, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Nishaanth. It is perfectly said by the European hydrogen members that we are the perfect partners. Like, because OPEX part, that is the renewable energy, which is found cheapest in India. Apart from that, we are having a resilient national grid. So if solar or wind potential is not available, that can be transmitted to anywhere in India. Apart from that, skilled manpower, yes, we have the cheapest one around the globe. Then we come to the skilling, we can do it, we can educate the persons. So that is also one of the main reasons that India can be the global hub. So European Union and India are natural partners. so there is no say about it. And with leaving that thing, we have already signed MOU with S2 Global, and they will demonstrate, they will collate the demand, and we will do the tendering, and the Indian bidders will be able to match the global price. In one of the session, we have already said that in the last session that we are facing certain problems, or our business partners or developers are facing some problems, that there are some conditionalities which we are not meeting, our partners are not meeting. So that has to be resolved. Otherwise, you may be ending up in buying at a higher price because Indian bidders will be out. What sir has said in the just that we have to make regulations as simple as possible in the very beginning and fast also. That will give us. So SECI, we have already demonstrated speed, scale and skill in our solar tenders. In 2014, we were having only 3 gigawatt, and now we have already crossed 110 gigawatt. So that is our potential. We can do the same thing in green hydrogen, but some hurdles have to be removed fast. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Shanware, you have a key role here. You're one of the few, oil and gas companies from India, and you are championing some of the renewable initiatives. So if you could shed light on some of them. Hello. Thank you. I think it's working, sir.
Working. Hello. Yeah, good afternoon to all. Yes, I have been listening to this conversation since morning today, and I'm one of the consumer. I come from a refinery in India, Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, and I am the consumer of hydrogen, and in refineries we consume hydrogen since 1990s. I must also say that, as you all know, we are one of the peak consumers of hydrogen as a percentage of hydrogen production. Let me tell you, as Bharat Petroleum, I represent the zero initiative for the refineries, net zero initiative for the refineries, which means that the oil and gas industry in India is moving towards net zero goals. And in that net zero goals, green hydrogen is one of our major part of our change management. In last 1 year, in Bharat Petroleum, we have been testing, we have been trying technologies for production of green hydrogen. And as you all know, major are two. One is the major one is electrolyzer, and the second one is the CBG route, which we are trying. Dear sir, as you said that the subject is related to cost, let me tell you how we think there are some potential points which we can think for reduction of cost. And why I'm saying so, because as the developers talk about the scalability, we are one of the consumers. And when we are one of the major consumers, the scalability is there when we consume green hydrogen. And obviously, it also will in turn help in export orientation targets, which we are setting for ourselves. So we have, in fact, recently, just this month only, we have commissioned one of the electrolyzer small plant in Bina refinery. And we know the technology now. We are also into CBG. What we are seeing here is, yes, as you all know, the major challenges we are also seeing is the scalability with respect to the electrolyzer manufacture, the footprint of the electrolyzer manufacturer versus the efficiency. This is one area which we are finding there is a need for more improvement so that the cost can come down. We also see that when we talk about an electrolyzer, the renewable energy source is somewhere else and the electrolyzer is somewhere else. So the transmission charges which we are talking about, when we calculate the IRR for our projects, that is one area within the state, within state center. We should think about it, how we can optimize it to reduce the cost of green hydrogen, what the developers can do. Dear sir, one more thing is related to CBG. When we talk about CBG, the scalability which we are looking for, again, there is a challenge of aggregation of the feedstock, which obviously is developing, but needs more improvement so that the size of project which we are looking for can be achieved. I'm sure I have been monitoring and I have been from my industry point perspective, I've been seeing and I'm responsible for this kind of projects and taking it further from the refinery point of view. I am seeing that as India, as Indian government, as the green hydrogen mission, there are various initiatives which government is taking and which is helping us also to move further on this projects. However, the developers or the industry partners and along with EU Union, if we can support each other in the area which we discussed just now, maybe we are sure that we will be able to do better in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma.
Just
Yes,
one input. Till 2030, transmission charges and losses are waived off for any green hydrogen project, right?
Thank you. Anupam, I know you have to leave, so if you could share some remarks that you've prepared for the table. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Hope I'm audible. Yeah, I'm Anupam Sani representing Sembcorp. So let me just quickly give an introduction of Sembcorp. We are a leading energy and urban solutions provider. We have presence in 11 countries, have a total portfolio of about 25 gigawatt. So out of the 25 gigawatt, 17 gigawatts is in renewables. And apart from that, we also have an urban solution business, which is we have developed about 15,000 hectares of land, attracting an investment of more than 60 billion. So I think, yeah, most of the topics, have been spoken about. I think the key issue, like we discussed in the last roundtable and the panel discussion was, everything has been done. The EU policies, one of the most, deeply thought and well articulated policies to ensure that, there is a real CO2 reduction. It's only that final hump that we are yet to cross, which is in terms of policy being adopted with consequences, with penalties, etc. So I think once that is done, I think India becomes a very logical choice. It's not just Indian developers trying to export this to Europe. It works to both countries or both regions' advantage. We can provide low cost hydrogen, and I mean that would end of the day benefit end customers that are there in the European region. I mean doing different stuff, doing different getting used in different industries, etc. So yeah, I think this is a win-win. One small I think issue that has been deliberated, I guess, in the previous round of discussion, bidding zone. I think these 2-3 issues are there, and post that I see a win-win solution for both India and Europe.
Thanks very much, Anupam. Definitely our partnerships, they give us mutual benefits. So we have 15 minutes more. 5:15 we'll wind this up, and at 5:30 we have the inaugural of the Indian Pavilion. So before I go to some of the 3 large developers sitting across me, I want to, first bring in maybe the government of Netherlands. Paulina, you've been very active. in supporting the partnership with India. So if you can highlight some of the efforts that you've taken and also, speak for the Port of Rotterdam that has not been here today. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Paulina Gramik from the Netherlands Embassy in India. We are no consumer, no producer of hydrogen. Our role is to connect, which was mentioned already before, and to inform both ways about what's happening in our countries. We are also no investors. We don't have budgets, though we are chipping in as the government to the H2 Global, to the joint tender that is been launched recently with Germany. So with the limited budgets that we have, we are trying to connect as many stakeholders as possible with each other so that they know of each other and that they can work together. So just to give you a brief highlight, I think it was 2 years ago that we sent first people from MNRE to attend World Hydrogen Summit. I think it were 3 people, amongst others Mr. Chapekar, who I think brought the information about what is happening here in Europe. And last year you had the biggest pavilion, and this year I think it's also going to be huge. We're going to see it in a while. So this is basically what we are doing. We are trying to create platforms, create discussions, connect people with each other about what is happening. Port of Rotterdam, I think it's similar to what the Port of Antwerp already said. Same developments, and we are trying to achieve the same with India. India is going to produce, we are going to import, and we are gearing up our infrastructure for getting the whole huge scale of hydrogen or ammonia that is going to come towards us. And Port of Rotterdam is looking at collaborations with the Indian ports. I think, sadly, we don't have them represented here, but the discussions are quite advanced. Next to Port of Rotterdam, we also have University of Groningen, and that is looking at collaboration with Department of Science and Technology, setting up fellowship programs to exchange the PhD candidates and to educate each other on hydrogen. We also have TNO that is looking at collaboration with India on making the electrolyzers more efficient, and also other stakeholders that are looking at India. And I wanted to invite you to join us tomorrow for a session in the morning, the bilateral India-Netherlands, where we are going to be talking about how to set up the import-export corridor that eventually we have to create to make it happen.
Thank you very much, Paulina. I think government involvement goes a long way, and together you've created a platform for industries to build partnerships and exchange ideas. So thank you all for the work that you do. Your colleague Bund is also here. Thank you very much. So if I can go to Mr. Jitendra from Avada.
Hi. So good afternoon. I'm Jitendra Singh. I represent Avada Energy, which is one of the leading integrated green energy company. We produce solar panels, around 5 gigawatts now at 2 places in India. We have portfolio of around 8 gigawatts of installed capacity of RE sets, and around 15 gigawatts are various stages of development. We are also into venture into production of green molecules. So first 500,000 ton green ammonia project is under execution in Odisha. So discussion, I think it has been very good discussion since morning today, and largely I think we all agree that India and EU both have huge potential to collaborate with, and there is immense complementarity. India has certain advantages wherein we can have a scale of production for green molecules. And just to put something here, that Avada has 1.2 gigawatt of single location solar production unit. I think 2 years back it was world's largest. So this kind of capacity country already has. Means when we talk about the green molecules, someone talked about that around 60-65% OPEX comes from the RE. So if any country which has that kind of ability, I think that would be very good to keep the cost down. And other side, like EU can generate demand, and has immense technology prowess. I think that there is huge collaboration space is here also that on technology, particularly the electrolyzers, because electrolyzers one I think critical area, which is I think if can be looked at into detail, has immense potential to reduce the cost. So I think in this particular area, it's a both EU and India can collaborate. Companies can already collaborating, but I think for the scope to collaborate with, its immense scope is there. But having said all these things, I think there are challenges remain. When we discuss, particularly in offtake with the EU, our EU counterparts, EU companies, they have concern on particularly on RFNBO certification. I think it has been discussed in detail. This is one area they have concern, and we need to settle it and sort it out. I know that it's an evolving space, so things are a little bit fluid and discussions are happening, but we have to settle it out. Otherwise, I think India and EU both might suffer, particularly for this. And secondly, on policy aspect, I think we as a green producers facing challenges from the blue molecule producers. Because particularly we cannot directly, green cannot directly compete with the blue. There are companies which are producing blue at a subsidized natural gas, and they can produce blue ammonia at $350, $400 per ton. So that I think the countries need to have need to look into, and there should be clear demarcation for the green and blue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jitendra. Arnava, if you could speak for ACME. Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Nishaanth. I'm Arnava Sinha. I represent ACME Cleantech. So ACME, apart from having its 8.5 gigawatts of portfolio of renewable energy, we are also into green hydrogen and green ammonia. Probably one of the first global plants of green ammonia was commissioned by ACME back in 2021. It's a very small plant, but of 5 megawatts, but it helped us learn a great deal about the integration of electrolyzers with an ammonia loop. What we have learned then is that an electrolyzer is a piece of equipment that you can use, you can abuse, but it will come back. It is faithful to you. So there is good news in that, at least from our experience in the last 4 years. In terms of where we are today, we have positioned ourselves quite strategically. We've got 900,000 tons of green ammonia that's in Oman. And I want to mention it first because that's the first plant that is coming up. But then we have 2 more projects of 1.2 million tons of green ammonia each. One is in Gopalpur, Orissa in India, and the other one is in Tuticorin. And we are predominantly looking at 3 markets, which is India domestically itself, but very largely Europe, as well as Far East, Japan and Korea. So we want to strategically position ourselves in a way that we are able to cater to that entire green hydrogen, green ammonia corridor, starting from Japan to India to the Middle East to Europe. And in doing so, and I'll take the example of our first project in Oman, and we want to replicate that to the other projects as well, where we have got 100,000 tons per annum offtake secured with Yara to be used, well, wherever Yara wants to use it, but I would expect that would be for European purposes. That's the first phase of the project. That's the entire train of ammonia, where we were able to give them 3 things, which is the best price. That's why that was one of the first projects which got an offtake commitment, an offtake agreement. And again, price is not something that I wanted to mention in the beginning, but I guess that is one of the main driving factors, so I wanted to also mention it. So price, that was one. The second thing that we wanted to ensure was to give them a carbon intensity that they will be comfortable with in saying that our product will fall within the RFNBO targets, and we achieved that. And the third thing that we wanted to give them was a flexibility in terms of volume, in terms of tenor, in terms of offtake capacities that could vary from year to year and so on. And now, I think when we are able to give these 3 commitments or abilities to our off-takers, they'll probably be happy to take that product. However, to replicate that same model from 100,000 tons to a much larger 1 million ton is not so easy. And that's where we need collaboration on the front of technology, in the front of financing. So a limited point that I would want to make here to all my European partners, collaborators, policymakers is, please come and tell us or help us so that we can help you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arnava. Very well summed up. And moving to the end of the table, but both of them two heavyweights sitting there patiently. Gautam, if you could begin first, and then Daniel after Gautam, please.
No, thanks, Nishaanth. I'd just like to make one point, especially to Dr. Laura and all my European friends who can influence policy. I think really we've all spoken about cost and cost reduction. Europe is doing a great job, I think, adopting and creating policy for the whole world. That is undoubted, and creating true decarbonization, not an accounting exercise, so for which we are all very thankful. But I think one thing needs to happen, and I know there is an ideological battle around it, and there is a bitter experience around it. But I think Europe needs to create an RFNBO credit